open this door right now! I know you're in there! Don't make me kick it in!
Officer, you are at a private residence. State your probable cause or vacate the premises.
I don't need a reason for someone like you! This is my city, and you're coming with me!
I am giving you one chance.
The door handle turned at 2:17 a.m. Sarah Chun was awake. She'd been awake for 3 hours. Insomnia again. She was sitting on her couch in sweatpants and a Georgetown Law t-shirt, reading case files on her laptop, when she heard the sound of a key sliding into her apartment door lock. She stood up, slowly. Her phone was on the coffee table. She picked it up, opened the camera app, started recording. The door opened. A man stepped inside. Uniform, badge, flashlight. Officer Jason Dennison, Atlanta Police Department, though Sarah didn't know his name yet. He saw her standing there in the dim light from her laptop screen. He didn't apologize, didn't retreat, didn't explain. He stepped further inside and closed the door behind him. "Ma'am, I need you to step back." Sarah's voice was calm, steady. "This is my apartment. You just unlocked my door and entered without permission. What is your basis for entry? I don't need to explain anything to you. Step back. You need a warrant, exigent circumstances, or consent. Which do you have?" Jason's jaw tightened. He wasn't used to being questioned, especially not at 2 a.m., especially not by a woman in sweatpants holding a phone. "I'm conducting a welfare check." "On who?" "That's not your concern. It's my apartment. Step back. Now." Sarah didn't move. She kept recording. Her phone camera pointed directly at his face. "You're making a Fourth Amendment violation right now," she said quietly. "I'm documenting it." Jason smiled. It wasn't a friendly smile. "Lady, I don't care what you think you know." 12 hours earlier, Officer Jason Dennison had started his shift at 6 p.m. He was 29 years old with 5 years on the Atlanta Police Department. He'd grown up in South Georgia, joined the Marines after high school, served 1 tour in Afghanistan, got out and joined APD when he was 24. He'd been assigned to the Midtown Precinct for the past 3 years. Residential neighborhoods, apartment complexes, noise complaints, domestic disturbances, wellness checks, routine patrol work. Jason had a reputation in the precinct. Aggressive, confident. He didn't take disrespect from anyone. He'd had 6 formal complaints filed against him over 5 years. All were dismissed or marked as unfounded. One involved excessive force during a traffic stop. The driver claimed Jason had slammed him against the hood of the car without cause. Internal Affairs found insufficient evidence. No body camera footage existed because Jason said his camera malfunctioned. Another complaint involved an unlawful search. A woman claimed Jason had searched her car without consent during a routine stop. She said he'd found nothing and left her belongings scattered across the pavement. Jason's report said she'd consented verbally. No witnesses, no footage. The complaint was dismissed. A third complaint involved entering a residence without a warrant. A man claimed Jason had walked into his home during a noise complaint and refused to leave when asked. Jason's report said the door was open and he'd heard sounds consistent with a domestic disturbance. The complaint was marked unfounded. Jason had learned over 5 years that complaints rarely stuck. As long as you wrote the report correctly, as long as you used the right language, most complaints disappeared into the administrative void. That Tuesday evening, dispatch had received a call at 1:47 a.m. An anonymous caller reported hearing screaming from apartment 3B at the Riverside Towers complex on Peachtree Street. Female voice. Possible domestic disturbance. Possible assault in progress. Jason was 2 blocks away when the call came through. He responded immediately. Arrived at the complex at 1:52 a.m. The building was quiet. No sounds from the hallway. No lights on in apartment 3B when he looked up from the parking lot. He entered the building through the main entrance. The overnight security guard, Marcus Williams, was at the front desk. "Officer, what's going on?" "Got a call about a disturbance in 3B. I'm going up to check it out." Marcus looked confused. 3B? That's Ms. Chen's apartment. She lives alone. I haven't heard anything tonight. Doesn't matter what you heard. I got a call. You want me to come with you? No. Stay here. Jason took the elevator to the 3rd floor. The hallway was silent. Fluorescent lights humming overhead. Beige carpet. Identical doors every 20 feet. He walked to apartment 3B and knocked. 3 heavy knocks. Official. No response. He knocked again. Harder. Still no response. He tried the door handle. Locked. Jason had a master key. The apartment complex had provided master keys to police for emergency situations. Fires. Medical emergencies. Active threats. The policy was clear. Master keys were only to be used when there was an immediate threat to life or property. Jason pulled out the master key. He didn't hear screaming. Didn't hear anything. But the call had come in. Someone had reported a disturbance. That was enough. He unlocked the door and stepped inside. Sarah Chun was 34 years old. She'd graduated from Georgetown Law 8 years earlier. Top 10% of her class. Law review. Moot court champion. She'd been recruited by 3 major law firms and turned them all down. She joined the Department of Justice instead. She'd spent 3 years as a prosecutor in the Civil Rights Division. She'd prosecuted police misconduct cases, excessive force, unlawful arrests, pattern and practice violations. She knew the law better than most defense attorneys, better than most judges. After 3 years at DOJ, she'd been recruited by the Office of Inspector General. She'd spent the past 5 years investigating federal agencies for misconduct, fraud, and civil rights violations. She had federal law enforcement authority. She could investigate. She could subpoena. She could recommend prosecutions. She specialized in cases involving abuse of authority, prison officials, border patrol agents, federal marshals, local police departments receiving federal funding. Her cases had resulted in 14 terminations, 9 criminal prosecutions, and over $7 million in settlements. She didn't advertise what she did. She lived quietly. She kept a low profile. Most of her neighbors had no idea she was a federal investigator. They thought she was a lawyer, which was true, just not the whole truth. That Tuesday night, she'd been working on a case involving excessive force by a county sheriff's department in South Georgia. 3 incidents over 18 months. Deputies using tasers on non-resisting suspects. 1 man had died. Sarah had spent the past 6 weeks reviewing body camera footage, medical records, and witness statements. She couldn't sleep. The case was heavy. The footage was disturbing. She'd seen the man die on camera, heard him begging, heard the deputies laughing. So she was awake at 2:17 a.m. when her door opened. She'd been trained for situations like this. Stay calm. Document everything. Assert your rights clearly. Don't escalate. Don't give them an excuse. When Jason stepped into her apartment and told her to step back, every instinct told her this was going to be bad. She kept recording. "You need to leave my apartment immediately," Sarah said. Her voice was level, professional. "You have no lawful basis for entry. I have a report of a disturbance. I'm conducting a welfare check. A welfare check requires reasonable belief that someone is in danger. I'm standing here. I'm fine. You can see I'm fine. Your welfare check is complete. You need to leave." Jason didn't move. He looked around her apartment. Living room, small kitchen, hallway leading to the bedroom, laptop open on the coffee table, case files spread across the couch, empty coffee mug on the end table. What are all these papers? That's not your concern. You need to leave. Are you alone? That's not your concern either. This is an unlawful entry. You're violating my Fourth Amendment rights. Jason's expression hardened. He didn't like being lectured, especially not by a woman who thought she knew the law better than him. "Ma'am, I'm going to need to check the rest of the apartment to confirm there's no threat." "No, you're not. You don't have consent. You don't have a warrant. You don't have exigent circumstances. You have no legal authority to be here. I have the authority to ensure public safety." "No, you have the authority granted by the Fourth Amendment and Georgia law. Neither grants you the right to enter a private residence without consent, a warrant, or exigent circumstances. You had none of those things when you unlocked my door. Jason stepped closer. He was 6'2", 200 pounds. He used his size deliberately, standing too close, invading space. You're being uncooperative. Sarah didn't step back. She kept recording. I'm asserting my constitutional rights. That's not uncooperative. That's lawful. Keep running your mouth and see what happens. Sarah looked directly at him. Her voice didn't change, didn't rise, didn't shake. Officer, you are currently committing a federal civil rights violation under Title 42, Section 1983. Every second you remain in my apartment without lawful authority creates additional liability. I'm advising you one final time. Leave immediately. Jason smiled again. That same smile. Condescending. Dismissive. You think you're a lawyer or something? I'm telling you to leave my apartment. Yeah? Well, I don't take orders from you. Jason walked past Sarah into her living room, his boots heavy on the hardwood floor, each step deliberate, a statement of control. Sarah followed him with her phone camera, still recording, every movement documented. Officer, you are now conducting an unlawful search. I am explicitly denying consent. This is being recorded. Jason picked up one of the case files from her couch, flipped it open, started reading. Medical examiner's report, autopsy photos, witness statements from the Georgia case. What is all this? Attorney work product. Privileged. Put it down. Jason kept reading, his eyes scanning the pages. This about cops? That's privileged information. Put it down and leave my apartment. He tossed the file back on the couch. Papers scattered. Some fell to the floor. He didn't pick them up. You one of those cop-hater lawyers? Sarah's voice remained steady. Clinical. I'm an attorney. You're violating my Fourth Amendment rights and now you're interfering with privileged documents. You need to leave. Now. Jason walked toward her bedroom. Sarah stepped in front of him. You are not going back there. You have no warrant. No exigent circumstances. No consent. You have no legal authority to search my residence. I need to clear the apartment. No, you don't. Your welfare check is complete. I'm standing here. I'm safe. There's no emergency. You're done. Jason moved closer, using his size again, his face inches from hers. She could smell coffee on his breath. Stale. Hours old. Could see the small scar above his left eyebrow, the stubble on his jaw, the complete confidence in his eyes that he could do whatever he wanted. Move, or I'll move you. Sarah didn't move. That would be assault. Under color of law. A federal crime. You really think you can threaten me? I'm not threatening you. I'm informing you of the law. Every action you're taking right now is creating civil and criminal liability. Jason grabbed her arm, his grip tight, his fingers pressing into her bicep, the pressure immediate and painful. I said move. Sarah's voice stayed level, controlled. You are now committing battery. You're touching me without consent, against my will, in my own home. This is assault under color of law. Jason pushed her aside, not violently, but forcefully. She stumbled back 2 steps, caught herself against the wall. He walked into her bedroom. Sarah followed, still recording, her arm throbbing where he'd grabbed her. She could feel the heat of his fingerprints on her skin, red marks already forming. Her bedroom was small. Queen bed, nightstand, dresser, closet. Nothing unusual, nothing suspicious, just a bedroom. Jason opened her closet, pushed aside hanging clothes, looked on the shelf above, moved shoe boxes, searching. What are you looking for, officer? Making sure there's no threat. There's no threat. There never was a threat. You received a false call, and you're using it as pretext to violate my rights. Jason opened her dresser drawers, one by one. Top drawer, underwear, bras, socks. He pushed things aside. Invasive, violating. Sarah felt her jaw tighten, felt anger rising, pushed it down, stayed calm. Stay professional. Document everything. You're now searching my dresser without a warrant, without consent, without any legal justification. This is unconstitutional. Jason turned to face her. You know what your problem is? You think you're smarter than everyone else. You think you know the law. You don't know anything. I know you're violating clearly established constitutional rights. I know every action you're taking is indefensible. I know you're creating massive liability for yourself and your department. Liability? Jason laughed. Short, harsh. Lady, I've been doing this for 5 years. You know how many complaints I've had? 6. You know how many stuck? 0. You can complain all you want. Nothing's going to happen. He walked past her, back into the living room, picked up her laptop, tilted the screen, looking at what she'd been reading. Case law, briefs, legal research on qualified immunity. You really are one of those lawyers. Put my laptop down. Jason closed the laptop, picked it up, held it. Maybe I should take this. Evidence. Evidence of what? There's no crime. There's no investigation. You have no legal basis to seize my property. I think this might be relevant to my investigation. What investigation? You responded to a welfare check. There's no welfare issue. There's no investigation. Put my laptop down and leave. Jason set the laptop down on the coffee table. Hard. The sound sharp in the quiet apartment. Sarah's neighbor, Mrs. Patricia Valdez, an elderly woman who lived in 3A, had heard voices, heard heavy footsteps, heard something that sounded wrong. She'd opened her door and stepped into the hallway. She could see Sarah's door, still open, light spilling into the hallway. She walked over, slowly, cautiously, looked inside. She saw Jason standing in Sarah's living room, saw Sarah holding her phone, recording. Sarah? You okay, honey? Jason turned. Ma'am, go back to your apartment. This is police business. I'm her neighbor. Sarah, are you all right? Sarah kept her voice calm. Mrs. Valdez, I'm fine. This officer entered my apartment without permission. I've asked him to leave multiple times. He's refusing. Patricia's eyes widened. Without permission? Sarah, should I call someone? Yes, call 911. Tell them there's an officer in my apartment conducting an unlawful search and refusing to leave. Jason stepped toward the door. Ma'am, do not call 911. There's no emergency here. Patricia looked at Jason, then at Sarah, then back at Jason. She pulled out her phone. Sarah's my neighbor. If she's asking for help, I'm calling. Jason's jaw clenched. If you call 911 and make a false report, that's a crime. It's not false if it's true, Patricia said. She was already dialing. Jason turned back to Sarah, his voice lower now, tight with controlled anger. You're making this a lot worse than it needs to be. You made it worse when you unlocked my door without legal authority. Every decision since then has been yours, not mine. Marcus Williams, the security guard from downstairs, appeared in the doorway. He'd seen Patricia leave her apartment, had watched her on the security monitor, saw her go into 3B, decided to come check. Everything okay up here? Jason turned. Security, go back to your post. This is a police matter. Marcus looked at Sarah. Ms. Chen? Marcus, this officer entered my apartment at 2:17 a.m. without consent, without a warrant, and without exigent circumstances. He's been here for 23 minutes. I've asked him to leave repeatedly. He's refused. He's searched my living room, my bedroom, my closet, my dresser. He grabbed my arm. He pushed me. He went through my legal files. I've been recording everything. Marcus's expression changed. He'd worked security for 8 years. He knew what unlawful entry looked like. Officer, did you have a warrant? I don't need to explain operational procedures to security guards. Did Ms. Chun let you in? I'm conducting a welfare check. She looks fine to me. Welfare check's done, isn't it? Jason's hands balled into fists. Everyone needs to step back and let me do my job. Sarah's voice cut through. Clear. Precise. Your job doesn't include violating the Fourth Amendment. Your job doesn't include unlawful entry. Your job doesn't include unlawful search. Your job doesn't include battery. You've committed multiple constitutional violations in the past 23 minutes. You have one option left. Leave immediately and pray I don't file a federal lawsuit. Jason stared at her. The apartment had gone completely silent except for the hum of the refrigerator in the kitchen. Patricia was still on the phone with 911 dispatch. Marcus was standing in the doorway. Sarah was holding her phone, recording, documenting, building a case. You think you can sue me? Good luck with that. I don't need luck. I have video. I have witnesses. I have documentation. And I have the law. A second police officer arrived 7 minutes later. Sergeant David Monroe, 18 years on the force. He'd responded to Patricia's 911 call. Officer refusing to leave a residence. Possible unlawful entry. He walked into the apartment and immediately assessed the situation. Jason standing in the living room. Sarah with her phone out. Recording. Marcus in the doorway. Patricia in the hallway. What's going on here? Jason spoke first. Sarge, I responded to a welfare check. This woman's been uncooperative. Refusing to comply. Making false accusations. Sergeant Monroe looked at Sarah. Ma'am, what's your version? Sarah's voice was calm. Professional. Sergeant, at 2:17 a.m., Officer Dennison unlocked my apartment door using a master key and entered without my consent, without a warrant, and without exigent circumstances. I informed him immediately that his entry was unlawful. I asked him to leave. He refused. He then conducted a search of my living room and bedroom without consent. He went through my personal belongings, my legal documents, and my dresser drawers. He grabbed my arm when I tried to prevent him from entering my bedroom. He pushed me against the wall. I have the entire incident recorded on my phone. I have 2 witnesses who arrived during the incident. This is a clear Fourth Amendment violation. It's also battery under color of law. Monroe's expression shifted. This wasn't a routine complaint. This was specific, detailed, legally precise. Ma'am, what do you do for a living? I'm an attorney. What kind of attorney? Sarah paused, then decided it was time. I'm a senior investigator with the Office of Inspector General. I investigate federal agencies and local law enforcement for civil rights violations, excessive force, and misconduct. I specialize in cases involving abuse of authority under color of law. The apartment went completely silent. Jason's face drained of color. His mouth opened slightly. No words came out. Sergeant Monroe closed his eyes for a moment. When he opened them, he looked at Jason with an expression that was part fury, part disbelief. You're telling me you're a federal investigator? Yes. I have my credentials in my bedroom, along with my federal law enforcement badge. Monroe turned to Jason. Did you ask her what she did? Jason didn't respond. Did you ask for identification? Nothing. Did you run her name? Jason's voice was barely a whisper. No. Monroe's jaw clenched. Officer Dennison, exit this apartment immediately. Wait for me in the hallway. Jason walked toward the door. His movements stiff, mechanical. He didn't look at Sarah. Didn't look at anyone. Monroe turned to Sarah. Ma'am, I apologize. This should not have happened. Do you want to file a formal complaint? Yes. And I'll be filing a federal civil rights lawsuit under Section 1983. Against Officer Dennison personally and against the Atlanta Police Department. Monroe nodded slowly. I understand. I need to ask. Do you have your credentials? Sarah walked to her bedroom. Returned 30 seconds later with her federal ID and badge. Office of Inspector General. Senior Special Agent. Sarah J. Chin. Monroe looked at the credentials. Looked at Sarah. Looked back at Jason standing in the hallway. Officer Dennison just violated the Fourth Amendment rights of a federal law enforcement officer in her own home while she recorded the entire incident. Sarah nodded. Yes, he did. Monroe pulled out his radio. Dispatch. I need a supervisor and internal affairs at Riverside Towers. 3B. Immediately. He looked at Sarah. This is going to be a long night. Sarah's voice was quiet, firm. For him, not for me. Internal Affairs arrived at 3:42 a.m. Lieutenant Karen Foster. 20 years on the force. 15 years investigating officer misconduct. She'd seen bad cases before. This one was worse. She interviewed Sarah for 90 minutes. Took her statement. Reviewed the phone video. Spoke with Patricia Valdez. Spoke with Marcus Williams. Pulled the building security footage showing Jason entering with the master key. Documented the timeline. Every minute. Every violation. By 6 a.m., her preliminary report was complete. Unlawful entry. Unlawful search. Battery. Failure to identify legal authority. Failure to request credentials. Insubordination when ordered to leave by resident. By 8 a.m., Jason was placed on administrative leave. His badge and weapon confiscated. His body camera reviewed. It had been turned off the entire time. Policy violation. By 10 a.m., the Atlanta Police Department's legal advisor, Michael Torres, was reading Lieutenant Foster's report in his office. His stomach dropped as he read each page. A federal investigator. In her own apartment. Recording everything. 2 witnesses. Security footage. No warrant. No consent. No exigent circumstances. The officer had been told repeatedly to leave. He'd refused. He'd searched her bedroom. Her dresser. He'd grabbed her. Pushed her. Torres picked up his phone and called the city attorney's office. We have a problem. The city attorney, Rebecca Hamilton, read the report 30 minutes later in her office on the 14th floor of City Hall. The coffee in her hand went cold as she read. By page 3, she knew exactly how bad this was. By page 7, she knew the city had no defense. She called her insurance carrier, the city's liability insurance provider, explained the situation. The representative on the phone was silent for a long moment. You're telling me an officer entered a federal investigator's home at 2 a.m. without a warrant and she recorded the whole thing? Yes. And he searched her bedroom? Yes. And he grabbed her? Yes. And there are witnesses? 2. Plus security footage. Another long silence. We'll need to settle this immediately, before it goes public. Do you have any idea what her damages could be? Rebecca did the math in her head. Emotional distress, constitutional violation, loss of security in her own home, punitive damages against the officer, policy failure damages against the city. Conservative estimate? $800,000 to $1.2 million if it goes to trial. Then settle it now, before she files, before the media gets it. Offer $1.4 million. Full policy reforms. Officer termination. Make it go away. Rebecca hung up and stared at her desk. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead. Outside her window, Atlanta stretched out in the morning sun. Somewhere down there, Sarah Chun was probably already drafting her lawsuit. The city had 72 hours before the story broke. 72 hours to contain the damage. Rebecca called Sarah's cell phone at 2 p.m. that same day. Sarah answered on the second ring. Ms. Chun, this is Rebecca Hamilton, city attorney for Atlanta. I've reviewed the incident from this morning. I want to discuss resolution before this becomes litigation. Sarah's voice was calm, professional. I'm listening. The city acknowledges that Officer Dennison's conduct was unlawful and violated your constitutional rights. We're prepared to offer a settlement that includes financial compensation, Officer Dennison's termination, and comprehensive policy reforms. What's the dollar amount? $1.4 million. Sarah was silent for a moment. She'd expected a settlement offer. But not this fast. Not this high. What reforms? Rebecca outlined them. Elimination of master keys for non-emergency entries. Mandatory body camera activation for all welfare checks. Immediate supervisor notification for all residential entries. Quarterly civil rights training. Independent oversight board with subpoena power. Sarah listened, then responded. I want one more thing. A public statement from the police chief acknowledging what happened and committing to the reforms. Done. They settled in 11 days. $1.4 million. Officer Dennison's termination. Full policy reforms. Public apology. The criminal investigation went differently. The district attorney reviewed the case. Unlawful entry. Battery. Violation of civil rights under color of law. But the DA declined to prosecute. Insufficient evidence of criminal intent. The statement read, Officer Dennison believed he was conducting a lawful welfare check. While his actions violated department policy and civil rights, criminal prosecution requires proof beyond reasonable doubt of intentional misconduct. The decision sparked outrage. Civil rights organizations protested outside the DA's office. Over 3,000 people signed petitions demanding prosecution. The DA didn't change his mind. Jason Dennison tried to find work in law enforcement after his termination. He applied to 17 police departments across Georgia, Tennessee, and Alabama. All rejected him. His name was too well known. The case too public. The video too damaging. He eventually found work as a loss prevention officer at a retail store, making $16.50 an hour. His law enforcement career was over. His marriage ended 8 months later. His friends stopped calling. The video had destroyed everything. Sarah still lives in Atlanta. Still works for the Office of Inspector General. Still investigates civil rights violations and police misconduct. But she moved apartments 3 months after the incident. She couldn't sleep in that bedroom anymore. Couldn't walk into that living room without seeing Jason standing there. Couldn't feel safe knowing someone could unlock her door at 2 a.m. The trauma of that night didn't end when Jason left. It followed her. She speaks at law enforcement conferences now. About constitutional limits. About the Fourth Amendment. About what happens when officers assume they can do whatever they want because complaints rarely stick. The Atlanta Police Department implemented every reform from the settlement. Master keys were eliminated. Body cameras became mandatory for all residential calls. Supervisors must be notified before any officer enters a residence. Civil rights training became quarterly instead of annual. An independent review of Jason's case history revealed the pattern Lieutenant Foster had suspected. 6 complaints over 5 years. All dismissed. But when reviewed together, the pattern was undeniable. Unlawful entries. Unlawful searches. Excessive force. All involving people who didn't know their rights well enough to fight back. Or who filed complaints that disappeared into administrative processes designed to protect officers, not citizens. Sarah's case became a teaching example in law schools and police academies across the country. The video is shown in constitutional law classes. It's used in training on Fourth Amendment violations. It's the definitive example of what happens when an officer assumes authority without legal basis. The case changed policy in 14 other cities. Master key programs were reviewed and reformed. Body camera requirements were strengthened. Civilian oversight boards were created. But Jason Dennison never faced criminal charges. Never spent a day in jail. Never had a criminal record. He lost his job. Lost his career. Lost his marriage. But he didn't lose his freedom. Sarah thinks about that sometimes. Late at night when she can't sleep. When she remembers the sound of her door opening. The feeling of his hand on her arm. The violation of her space, her safety, her home. She won the lawsuit. She got the reforms. She got justice in the legal sense. But the system that allowed Jason to operate for 5 years with 6 complaints and 0 consequences, that system is still intact. The DA who declined to prosecute, still in office. The internal affairs process that dismissed every complaint, still functioning the same way. One case changed one officer's life. But how many officers are still out there, operating the same way Jason did, in cities without cameras, without witnesses, without federal investigators who know exactly what their rights are? Sarah saved the video. She'll never delete it. It's evidence. It's documentation. It's proof. But it's also a question that won't go away. If this can happen to a federal investigator who knew the law, who had a camera, who had witnesses, who had the resources to fight back, What happens to everyone else?